In the wrestling world, the people are represented by two separate but unequally important groups. The wrestlers and bookers, who literally do all the hard work, and the fans, who endlessly nitpick and overanalyze everything they do. These are their stories. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling Booking Unit. I am your host, Detective Mark Smarks, and I am joined, as always, by my partners in crime fighting. Starting off, District Attorney Vincent Kayfabe. What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, hey, man. Sorry. Just admiring my Pissy Ant podcast shirt.
It is a really nice shirt.
It's a Pissy Ant shirt.
Yeah, super nice.
Yeah.
I wonder where you got it.
I got it at shop.spreadshirt.com/raw and order WBU.
Also joining us from up north, not wearing any of our merch, the whore.
Oh, I thought you said
JLB
for a second.
Hey. Jesus, I'm having camera issues today completely. Hey, guys, what's going? It's your boy, Justin JLB. Doing good, man. Doing good. Can't complain. I can complain by a certain Dark Side episode, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure it will come up. It'll definitely come up on this. I haven't watched the whole episode. I've watched snippets here and there, and I've read all about it. And I was fairly familiar with the story of what happened, and not just from the animated WWE thing that made it look like it was all cupcake and roses, but from like other backstage reports and stuff about how it was pretty nasty. And so, you know, it was one of those ones that I was like, I know it's going to cause a controversy, and it did. Yep. It did, but it wasn't the one that I was.
What was it about?
Plane Ride from Hell.
Oh.
But it apparently brought stuff to light that was glossed over in some of the previous ones, including interviewing one of the flight attendants on the actual plane ride that had been paid off by WWE to not press charges against against WWE in general for allowing it to happen, but against a very famous, legendary wrestling figure. Yes.
So there was a sexual assault on the plane ride for Hell too?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
Man, you should have. If there was any time to watch Dark Side,
here's the deal: is that's actually up for free on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube.
Oh, is it?
The whole thing for free on Dark Side of the Ring's YouTube channel or whatever, Vice's YouTube
Is
channel.
it legit on Vice? Or because I know a lot of people tend to just grab it and then post it and it gets removed.
It was on, I'm pretty sure it was on Vice's. Let me just do the Googling really quickly to find it.
Because they have their own video thing online, so I wouldn't think it would be Vice doing it.
It was labeled Dark Side of the Ring full episode, and then the thing was like, this is our return to the but now I gotta find it again because
it's definitely not them though. It wouldn't be.
I'm 90% certain it was them because I'll just find it here.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those things. It was labeled as like, here's your preview of the second half of the thing. Plane Ride from Hell, Dark Side of the Ring, full episode on Vice's YouTube channel. Posted 2 days ago. 46 minutes and 40 seconds.
Look at them go. All right, nice.
I told you it was all them.
Yeah,
I'm just making sure. Well, I don't want you to. I'm just looking out for you, bud. I didn't want you to get.
Dude, misinformation.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's online, that's all I said is it's on YouTube. You can watch it, and even if it was an illegitimate feed, I was not lying to them that it was on YouTube.
Well, but you said Vice, so you said Vice was distributing it, which would have been.
I first said it was on YouTube.
Because you were right,
but I was right.
You were right, though. You were right. That's all.
But anyways, let's just say to not spoil it too much, the phrase helicopter dick and grabbing the flight attendant's hand and placing it on said dick when she was cornered. You know, all kind of happened in it. It featured a lot, and I don't think anyone came out of it smelling like roses. I'm like, even the reported hero of that particular incident, the person who came up and broke up that particular incident was Dustin Rhodes. But he actually has a separate allegation from the same plane ride of him being inappropriate. And so it's like, just the whole thing is, but in the end, it's one of those things where can we stop pretending that Ric Flair wasn't already problematic even without this? I mean, the guy's whole gimmick was basically, I'm that guy who will sexually assault people, you know, but he's super charismatic. So yeah, we'll let him.
Well, I mean, and
let me.
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. So on Twitter, he went viral. Maybe it was 3-4 weeks ago about some guy giving fellatio to a woman. Is it fellatio? I don't. Fellatio to a woman in a plane.
It starts with a C, but we don't need to get into it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So, and everyone was just joking about that, like it's Ric Flair, and then Ric Flair even posted a tweet like, "Woo! Ric Flair doesn't need to do that on plane, or he only does that on first." I don't know. He said something. He only does it on first class, or he doesn't need to do it on planes, or whatever. Oh no, it was in a train.
Yeah,
it was in a train.
Ric Flair doesn't ride on trains.
That's it. So it's just interesting to me how the Twitter sphere made a joke about that, and other dirt sheets made a joke about that, and then Dark Side of the Ring comes out. Now this is more, you know, a sexual assault.
That's the important difference. There is the picture that may or may not have been him. It wasn't down on a woman. You know, I'm just saying may or may not, because he denied it. There's no real reason to believe it was him. But it did look kind of like him. So, but anyways, regardless, whatever, the one thing about that picture is it 100% looked consensual on both sides.
For sure.
Right. For sure. And this Dark Side of the Ring specifically was not a consensual something out of it.
Right. Absolutely.
But the other person who's coming out of it smelling like shit is a Tommy Dreamer, who
well, his comments were stupid. So
yeah, his comments were dumb and insensitive, and really kind of portrayed the boys club attitude that wrestling has been for so long.
And Rob Van Dam admitted to that, right? Rob Van Dam even said, listen, you don't want to meet your wrestling superheroes, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to be very disappointed and find out that they're just not good people, you know? So Rob Van Dam had said it in a proper manner, whereas Tommy Dreamer was more like...
The big mistake Tommy Dreamer did, and I'm not trying to excuse what he said or anything like that, was basically he tried to imply, well, if she really didn't like it, why didn't she go to the cops? Why did she take the payout? And what you want to say is because of fuckers like you who say like that, right? That's why women don't go to the cops with these things, is because they know they have to fight against this boys club mentality.
And you're going to have to fight against, well, there's proof. If you really take it, she did the smartest thing, because if you take that to court, it's going to be a whole thing. Where's the proof?
And it's going to be multi-million-dollar lawyers on the WWE side. This was, 2002? Yeah. I mean, this wasn't like the 1970s or something like that. This was 2002. This was less than 20 years ago.
Right.
And you know, like... Scott Hall looks like shit after this, and he never looked great on this, but his wasn't sexual assault. It was just,
he was just messed up.
Fucking absolutely. And this was pre Scott Hall sobriety, you know. I mean, he's worked really hard on it. This was, I mean, no one came out of this.
Well, I mean, Kurt Angle drunk, getting in a fight. I mean, that's the big story out of it. Is Mark Calloway? Does he come away looking like shit?
No, I don't think there was anything on the Undertaker.
Yeah, they really didn't talk much about it because
he's the one who stopped Kurt.
So I didn't hear anything about Kurt. I didn't hear anything about Taker. There was Kurt Hennig and Brock Lesnar, that whole thing. That's why Kurt Hennig had got fired and let go because of that plane ride incident. There was really nothing on. Dustin Rhodes, that whole scenario.
Because that's what I've heard talked about the most from it was Kurt choking out Vince.
Vince wasn't on the plane.
He was. He was in front of the plane. He was not. He was in front of the plane where JR was.
They talk about it, but it's been specifically pointed out that Vince and the rest of the crew were on a different flight. They were on a private jet, and this was a different one that they'd left.
So is that
and that's something that
story then
that's something that the Vice has been critiqued about, because multiple sources have come forward to say Vince McMahon was not on this plane ride.
But the flight attendant even said he was, because he had his own front area.
This is where the controversy about this particular article comes. It has been not just reported but confirmed by multiple people from not just in the company but other wrestlers that were on the plane ride.
Airline logs are going to prove
airline logs that Vince McMahon flew on a private jet. This was a charter jet. Vince McMahon rarely flies with the talent. And so Vince didn't find out about it until it landed.
Wasn't that I think wasn't it Kurt choking out Vince and Mark?
But then how did that happen then? If that might not have been the plane
might have been a different plane ride.
Yeah. Okay.
I swear I've heard that story. Kurt Hennig getting ready to choke, or not Kurt Hennig, Kurt Angle getting ready to choke out Vince, and Mark Calloway choking him out or getting in a fight with Vince.
That might have been something completely different from the plane ride from hell.
Yeah.
And if it was choking out Vince, and if Vince apparently wasn't on that plane ride, because Vice has been, then it wouldn't have been from the plane ride from hell, technically. But JR was on this plane ride from hell because he was the
he was the big thing with this, Mr. Perfect versus Brock Lesnar fighting was one of the really big things on it.
And then X-Pac cutting Michael Hayes' ponytail.
What?
Michael Hayes got he passed out or whatever, and then X-Pac just kind of came with scissors and cut off his ponytail.
How does one flight deteriorate that badly?
So the behind the scenes from it is it got delayed for
7 hours.
Yeah, hours and hours on
they were all
because of weather. So by the time they even took off, they'd gone through, I want to say 2 carts, and they were on their 3rd cart of beverages. And the flight attendant said, we never go through one.
And it's full bottles.
Yeah.
It's not like small little bottles like regular planes get. It's full ass big liquor bottles.
Yeah.
And wrestlers were pouring it for themselves at one point, not even waiting for the flight attendant to. So, yeah, that's a lot.
Ooh,
Plus, there was pills. Some of the wrestlers had pills and all that. And it was like a whole shindig. So 7 hours, you're on the tarp, you're waiting to bounce. You're getting drunk. You have nothing else to do. You're still in England. You're really happy to go home. You're anticipating. You're drinking, ready to leave. Probably 80% of the wrestlers are sloshed already. So,
yeah. So, according to Jonathan Coachman, and Vince and Linda were not on the flight, despite the episode repeatedly stating the opposite. It says, hey, I've gotten many questions about the thing. I haven't seen it yet, but someone told me it said Vince and Linda were on the flight. This is absolutely false. If this is what they said, they were not on the flight. Understand, I was on the flight. I was there. Brock elbowed me in the head when the fight started with Mr. Perfect. Taker was definitely on the flight because he jumped to break up the fight. But the reason it got so out of control is because Vince wasn't there.
Which would make sense. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I'm not saying the producers had bad information on purpose. They only used the interviews they got, but it sounds like they got it wrong. I will watch it later.
But then the flight attendant even got it wrong because I believe she was the one that was kind of explaining it, which is really weird.
She was giving her thing, but in the end, I mean, it's been it's also 18 years. Yeah.
20 years, and she went through a very traumatic experience.
And there's a lot of things.
But direct dealings with Vince if she got paid out.
Yeah, and that's the deal. Is she might be in her head conflating a conversation with Vince after the flight on the ground versus her actually saying something to him on the flight. That's, I think, what it simply comes to. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, our memories are kind of shitty. Let's just be honest with it. Our memories.
Eyewitnesses are frequently not valuable.
I have this story that I always like to tell whenever people we talk about memories, and I say I have a really good friend from childhood, middle school on up, and we both remember this event happening when I would have been about 19 and he would have been about 17 or something, but each of us remembers it flipped. I distinctly remember me saying something and then him laughing and saying something else. And he remembers him saying it and me laughing and saying, and it's flipped. And both of us distinctly remember, and neither of us will admit the other person is wrong because our brains remember it our way. And we'll never know who's remembering it right because our memories are it's the way our brains are. We're the protagonists in our own brain, and it's really easy for us to conflate things that happen. So anyways, but let's get into the wrestling crimes. Before we get into that, though, this is the time I point out that Raw and Order is part of the Tatnisco Podcast Network. So down in the doobly-doos down below, you can click the link to tatnisco.com and check out all the other shows on the network there. Because we'd love for you to check them out. And if you already aren't subscribe to us on YouTube. Even if you're watching this on Facebook, I encourage you to head over to YouTube and find the Raw and Order WBU YouTube page and subscribe to us there. It helps us out to be subscribed both places. You can watch our live stream on YouTube or Facebook, and it's fine either way. Or you can watch the replay on YouTube or Facebook, or even head on over to anchor.fm/Raw and Order WBU or any of your podcast things to listen to it there. So, but let's go ahead.
Hold this. Come on, just grab it. Grab it. Never mind. Sorry.
But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the wrestling crimes. As always, open up the floor to the other two to see if they want to do their crimes first.
I don't know. Honestly, mine was going to be about the plane ride. So,
let's do it. Let's do it. We're already talking about it.
We had to get some stuff going, but yeah.
So that's it. Might as well. Look, because I honestly didn't have much really. I guess NXT was a thing I was going to do, and then the Dark Side episode happened, right? Yeah. So I watched that. I said, okay, I gotta watch. This is the one I wanted to watch most out of it. Well, Canyon's next week is gonna be crazy, but this is one of the ones I wanted to watch. So I watched it. I knew the majority of stuff that was mentioned. I didn't know about the helicopter shindig and obviously the sexual assault. But I've heard about the Kurt Hennig and Brock and so on. But one thing, of course, that came right to me just right off the bat, of course, was Tommy Dreamer's comments. But also now that he had recently apologized, his lackluster apology. So since the episode,
I do have the apology up. Whenever you're ready, I can read it.
Perfect. So since the episode happened, Impact has mentioned Tommy Dreamer. We're suspending you indefinitely. And that's all that kind of happened. He's only there. He might, I don't know. He's still technically part of Zilo's.
Yeah, he's still technically, I will point out though, he's technically listed, but on their promotional stuff, they haven't mentioned him the last 3 days. So they may have been working on a replacement for him or something. I don't know, but
fair. So since that happened, and then he came out with his apology, which I will get you then, since you do have it up, of what he had mentioned, because it was pretty lackluster to say the least. Take it away, good sir.
Yeah. So his statement on Dark Side of the Ring, like I said before, was something along the lines of, if she was really so offended by it and if she was really sexual assaulted, why didn't she go to the cops with it? Instead, she just took a way out or whatever, blah, 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 which is kind of victim blaming and all that. And she's gotten a lot of heat from it. His apology, official statement, regarding my comments on Dark Side of the Ring, it was never my intention to offend, hurt, or victim shame anyone. I understand my comments were insensitive and could trigger emotions on someone's own personal past. I do not condone sexual conduct of any kind. I apologize to anyone I offended from the bottom of my heart. I am so sorry. And you know,
boy, that sounds really Control-C, Control-V.
Yeah. So. Well, hold on. This is my crime.
I know. I give him credit for at least apologizing, but it's this much credit.
But it's I'm sorry I got caught. That's what it is. Or I mean, not even got caught. It was by your own fruition.
I'm sorry you were offended. That's what it was. I'm sorry you were offended. That's why I only give him this much, because a lot of people just double down and say, "Hey, man, it was 2002, man. You know, what am I supposed to say? It happened then or whatever." And so he at least bothered to Google, how do I apologize for shit I said, and copy and paste it.
Right.
So but I don't give him much.
What's interesting to me was more so the whole comment of him being really offended by, well, listen, if she didn't, but look, she took the money. If she didn't want to take the money, she could have went to she could have went to take it to court and go by the law to its fullest extent. So for me, that was more of like, okay, an opinion, kind of dickish, but an opinion to see what you can do. I understand why she just did that, because going to court for something like that, it's going to be years and years and money and so on. My problem really that triggered Tommy Dreamer, you're a freaking idiot, was then what he said afterwards. He said something along the lines of, it was like a boys will be boys kind of thing after that. She's like, oh, yeah, he had her in the corner. He was kind of downplaying how things were happening. And he's like, it was, I can't really recall, but it was kind of like, boys will be boys. It was a joke. She should have it was a joke. It wasn't meant to be serious. And I was like, bro, this is not one of the wrestlers here. Even then, it's bad.
This is at least some of his words from Dark Side of the Ring. He said,
Ric Flair's words taken from 2021, 2020.
These are him on screen in an interview by Dark Side of the Ring. So these are new.
These are not
from 2020.
No, this is during the episode.
Yeah. This is during the episode. He's face to face with the camera. He says, listen, Ric Flair is not going to try to impose by force any sexual stuff onto anybody. He's just flaunting, styling and profiling and Ric Flair stuff where everybody's going to laugh about it. But obviously somebody took offense to it. Then later, he said, if that's how she felt, maybe she should have not taken a payout and went to the fullest extent of the law to truly put this heinous person in jail.
So to explain
this is trying to portray someone as a sexual predator, and it's not. It's a joke. It's a gag. And today, 1,000% inappropriate. I've hung out with Flair, and I've never seen him try to force his will against anybody.
I mean, fair. That might be a thing. Maybe you hanging out with him, you've never seen him try to do such a thing. Okay, fine. Like, I don't mind that. Like, whatever. I mean, that's possible. But he's certainly trying to downplay it, making excuses. Now, for Fabe, to kind of give Fabe some context of when this happened, this is when Flair had his robe on, and he only had his robe on. He took it off. He helicoptered his penis for a bit. People were laughing, and then he went to go see the flight attendant at the where the flight attendant section is. So only flight attendant people should be there, and he kind of cornered her. So for Tommy Dreamer to even say it was a joke, it's like, bro, no, but you're now invading her personal space. If you wanted to do that and while on the plane and helicopter, whatever, okay, that a joke amongst the wrestlers, but you don't go quarter someone and be like, oh, touch it. You know what I mean? Like, no, completely wrong. I don't even know why he was trying to put it into some kind of defensible context, but it's clearly he doesn't think that it was as bad as it was. And that's the problem with the boys will be boys mentality, or people who might be great wrestlers, but who are complete assholes outside of the ring and are somewhat or are womanizers. And I would put even Tommy Dreamer in that category for his thinking.
Here's the deal. Boys will be boys in the locker room. Smarks has stories about locker room stories. I've had some stories. Absolutely. In the locker room, I've seen dudes do the helicopter and be like, hey, look at this. You're not in the locker room anymore.
Right.
You're on a public airplane. By public, I mean there are people who are not who are not locker room members. I don't even know how you get on the plane with your robe on.
No. He changed.
Yeah, it was probably in his carry-on. He went to the loo and took off his regular clothes.
So yes,
very London of you. Well played. I like
that. Locker room behavior. If you're in the locker room, but this isn't a locker room. This is a fucking airplane.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I mean, there's
not going to be a woman in your locker room that you walk up to and go, touch my penis, touch my penis, touch my penis, touch my penis.
Well, and that's, I mean, ultimately, and I'm going to be really clear. It is not cool to force anyone to touch your penis, right?
Correct.
Guy or girl. I don't care if it's boys will be boys.
It's really also not cool the helicopter's funny, I suppose, when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 14 to 22. You know, that 8-year period of very locker room adolescent behavior.
But when you're intoxicated to a certain point, though, the stupidest things are funny. So keep in mind 3 carts of alcohol.
But you're on an airplane. You're not in a locker room this time.
Yeah, and ultimately we need to then discuss. I mean, there's a couple things. This is 2002. This was the dark times for women's wrestling. But what if there had been women's wrestlers on that plane? Like a lot of.
Well,
right?
I mean Terry Reynolds was.
Yeah, Terry Reynolds was, and Terry Reynolds.
I would. Oh my god, man! If there was a story with Terry Reynolds, she must have stories on stories on stories.
I'm sure.
Brock Lesnar did it to Terry Reynolds. Randomly.
Yeah, she is not complimentary of Brock's package. We'll just say that. She was not impressed. But no, my point is it's still dark times. Can you imagine if that plane ride was half filled with Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks, and this is a lot of the reason why women's wrestling took till 2015 to establish a serious foothold in American wrestling, right? And WWE specifically, because they treated it like such a boys' club. Because no girl was going to be comfortable in that situation.
Woman. I feel
no
girl
woman
sounds so.
No menstruating person.
Yes. No.
Okay.
No one. Heck,
sorry, I got off the phone with AOC earlier and wanted
to many men would be uncomfortable in that position.
Right.
I wouldn't be particularly comfortable in that situation.
No.
And especially if there were some women on the plane as well, I'd be worried about them, right? But can you imagine being, a young, up-and-coming, recently signed to WWE women's wrestler and suddenly have to witness that and think, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Right?
Yeah.
Am I gonna wake up to find myself raped? Do I need to find a secure place in this plane ride back from my job to America.
So here's the second thing I'm gonna address regarding Tommy Dreamer's statement. Tommy Dreamer, this was an international flight, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you fucking retard. International law is very, very different than local law. So in the overseas flight part, now there's jurisdiction questions. So this flight attendant may very well have just gone, this jurisdiction battle is going to be overwhelming, let alone the actual...
Because it wasn't done in the States and all that, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
It might be a state U.S. flight, but you don't know where the jurisdiction lands. When did the event start? When did it happen? When did all those types of things? Did it happen mid-flight? Did it happen on the tarmac? Because now this flight attendant needs to go back to England. Was it from England?
London. Yeah, England.
London.
Yeah.
Okay, so does this flight attendant have to go back to England for the prosecutorial process? All of that comes into play too. Yeah, the payout, that doesn't mean she wanted it. That means I don't make enough money to hire an attorney stateside and in London and potentially an international attorney.
So here's the thing I do kind of feel about that. I took when he said that kind of like, hey, listen, yeah, it's bad. And if you're still talking about it right now and you really feel a certain way, maybe you should have taken it to the fullest extent. I think in his head, he was kind of more thinking like, well, you took the payout because you wanted to just get money. Like he in his head considered it as like, it's how he said it.
To get cash.
It's a ploy to get cash.
In the end,
no.
that's part of the biggest problem because that's just patent victim blaming, right?
Right.
She just tried to get cash out of it. She just wanted. Why didn't she go to the cops? She took the money because she's just wanting the money, right? And that's part of why. Even though I said I gave him this much credit for at least apologizing for it, he doesn't get that he was this far in the hole before because it was like 100% victim blaming. But I mean, there's so much more that happened on that plane ride from hell than just that. I mean, we already talked about the fight between Brock Lesnar and Kurt Hennig.
Right.
We talked about Scott Hall. Reportedly, that same flight attendant has said that Scott Hall licked her face.
Yeah, exactly.
And then eventually was so fucked up at the end that they had to wheel him off the plane in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and Just Incredible wheeled him off. Yeah,
and wheel him through customs and make up some excuse as to why he couldn't get up at customs and do his stuff. All of that stuff. Kurt Hennig ended up getting fired. A bunch of the other people, I'm trying to remember. Dustin Rhodes got let go later or earlier the next year, and
because he was really depressed. This was during the divorce between him and Terry Runnels, so he was like really depressed, singing on the intercom thing. And Terry Runnels was explaining that. He just seemed. Now the other allegation you were referring to, I don't think was part of the dark side though. For Dustin, all I think it mentioned for Dustin was that he did help out the flight attendant, and he was the only one to do something. So I gave him like at least credit. Like, okay, at least you're the only one out of these wrestlers who actually stood up and did something. Kudos to you. I don't think they talked about the other allegation on the doc though. Because you were saying there was something something else he did.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was actually in this, but I know from many of the other things from the plane ride from hell, even Dustin didn't come off looking great. But he ended up getting let go, and reports have it that even though it was months later, it still had to do with this. It was still backlash from this. I think Scott Hall got let go. And
for his demons and all that, because they had originally brought him back, but he was still struggling with substance abuse. So this was one of his first times back, and they realized like, oh, maybe. And then you put him in a plane filled with 3 carts of alcohol with a bunch of wrestlers. I'm like, WWE, this is ridiculous. Like, you clearly didn't really care for your
ultimately
completely back then either.
There's a reason why the laws are now, and it may be different in England, but in America, if the flight is delayed for more than an hour, you have to allow the people to get off and go back into the airport terminal and stretch their legs and move around and do all that stuff, because just sitting on the tarmac. Yeah, just sitting on this tarmac for 7 hours with nothing the fuck else to do, people are gonna get fucking loaded.
Yeah, but who's to say they don't go do that at the airport bar either?
Well, yeah, but they're not gonna go into the bathroom and change into their robe in the airport bar and helicopter dick. That's just not gonna happen.
That's fair.
They might.
They'll get arrested by. Yeah, they'll get tackled by security, and
I think that was already when they were flying already, though. When he had
but again, they also would probably not get as plastered because they'd be out in public where people can see them and all of this stuff. There'd be other stuff they could do. They could eat. They could go to a restaurant at the airport and actually eat food, real food. And sit and watch some TV.
They could go and sleep it off.
Yeah, take a nap. Hey, wake me up when it's time to board again. Anyways, it's a whole nightmare situation there, and ultimately, it's one of those things where I think it's important, as much as we like watching these professional wrestlers and talking about them and admiring them in many ways, it's important to remember that they are still human, and when you meet them, they will probably not live up to this heroic expectation that we may have built up. Like even the best of us, have failings, and I'm a huge Sting fan. I got Sting action figures all over the place and everything. Sting's a born again Christian, and I'm sure has not done anything. I've never heard any allegations of him doing anything, but he also was really good friends with Ric Flair during a lot of this time, during the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And so before his born again days, he very well might have done some shit.
He also certainly is an attractive enough man to have done some womanizing, charming, famous.
Yep.
Not that those weren't consensual. I'm not implying that Steve did anything non-consensual. What I'm implying is there can still be misbehaviors that are consensual.
Many of our heroes will shock us when it turns out that they're just simply people. And so it's important to go into any situation, like we're going to a meet and greet for Zello Pro, and I'm super excited to get autographs from Jordan Grace and Jonathan Gresham, and maybe I'll get the Gun Club. I don't know.
Are you excited? So Zello Pro is the first time that we get to see Jordan Grace's autograph, and the second time you'll get to see it is when you're signing as the witness when her and I get married.
Yes, and the third time is when I'm signing as the witness for your divorce. And the fourth time is when I'm signing for the fight where
for
Jonathan
identification
Gresham,
of my body after Jonathan Gresham murdered me.
Yep, that was him. Can you sign too? Okay.
I can tell by the beard.
Yeah.
And with that, I guess Tommy Dreamer, also WWE, but also the fact that they gave Ric Flair no repercussions from this at all. He was nothing.
Because he was their star still at that
as JR
time.
said it, he was the made man kind of thing.
He was a member of Evolution, and Evolution doesn't work without a Flair.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. He was a made man. JR specifically said he's commented on it that, you know, he wasn't allowed to.
Or no, this would have been the feud with Vince. This was before Evolution.
Yeah. But he was not allowed to punish Ric Flair for it. Like he could go, he wasn't allowed to punish Ric Flair for basically anything. He said he could go to Vince and say, "Hey, Rick's been doing this stuff, and we need to suspend him or whatever," and Vince would say no. You know, the things that other wrestlers would get suspended for at the time, Flair could get away with because he was a made man. And in fact, if I'm correct, this actually cost JR his role as talent relations in the end.
I don't know if I don't.
They didn't say it. They didn't say it in the episode.
They mentioned it,
but I think in other statements of it, they said that JR was eventually removed from talent relations because so many of the people involved with this were people that he had brought on to the company or back to the company. In the case of like Scott Hall and Curt Hennig. Anyways,
so it does bring up a larger point of a culture that exists for 40 years in professional wrestling that is deteriorating now, but should have deteriorated in 90. And that is everything from prank culture to the very, very malevolent misogynist culture.
Yes.
The misogynist culture took longer. It sounds like the prank culture pretty well started to end after this. But I mean, Fuji would literally shit in people's clothes.
I hated the ribbing stuff they mentioned with Curt Hennig, and I'm like, man, I would lose it in terms of the ribbing stuff. I couldn't. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, my McIntyre has shit in it, and I'm supposed to perform tonight.
Well, Rene Dupree, in a statement, talked about the ribbing and mentioned that he wouldn't go out drinking with the boys after the shows. And he came back to his hotel room, and I think he said his hotel room, but he came back to his room, found they'd taken his French flag, his heritage, and they stuffed it in the toilet, and they shit and they pissed on it. But
he's Quebecois though. He's not from France.
But he
was playing like it was from France there.
Yeah.
But
he still has French Quebec heritage, which still has the French heritage to it.
Yeah, but the France flag isn't that. He was from Quebec.
Don't shit all over your people.
I'm not.
No, my point is
Quebecers hate people from France, though. We don't like each other technically. Although, way back in the day, sure.
In the end, he still could be proud of his French heritage, right? Just like I've got Irish heritage in me. You know,
want to spend $30 on a new flag.
Yeah, but he said he went to people. He eventually went to the Undertaker to ask him if he knew who did it, and the Undertaker, at least according to him, basically implied that he was behind telling the people to do this, right? That the Undertaker led them to do this part of the thing. And there's nothing, at the time, the Undertaker was like Ric Flair. And in fact, up until just a few years ago, the Undertaker was like Ric Flair, made man, nothing he could ever do, and WWE would get him fired. You know what I mean?
Now, also known as a higher level of class, but also a known womanizer yet again.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and I'll go on the record in saying that it just like I mentioned with Sting, Mark Calloway did go through a born again Christianity thing.
Thanks to his current wife,
and could have changed his ways entirely at that point, but it doesn't erase the slate from before. You have to make amends for that stuff. Anyways, but yeah, no, the misogyny and boys will be boys culture, I'm hoping and my sense from all the stories I hear about modern day Impact Wrestling, modern day Ring of Honor Wrestling, and modern day AEW Wrestling is that a lot of that has been nipped in the bud in at least those companies. And WWE has to have gotten better about it, if only because of the influx of the women's division.
Well, also, The Undertaker, I remember a while there was a meme even where he had mentioned that the new school generation of wrestlers are somewhat like wussies because all they do is play video games and whatever. So he had mentioned that. So chances are it has completely changed because the wrestlers now just kind of do their own thing. They play games. It looks like the whole, what is it, hazing, if you will? The whole hazing part of the wrestling mentality has slowly diminished compared to, I guess, 90s or early 2000s. But that meme was just hilarious. He's like, boys will be boys. You see him talking on his documentary. And then the New Day was like, well, why do you think we do play video games and so on? You know what I mean? Like,
boys.
I would like to while we're opening the door to this shitting on Undertaker. There's an ad that plays repeatedly on YouTube when I'm watching videos, and it's an ad for the Joe Rogan show. And I fucking hate Joe Rogan, right? But it's Joe Rogan interviewing Undertaker.
When? A while ago?
This was a while ago.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. But at that, he says Undertaker says there was an 8-year period where I averaged 270 days a year. And Joe Rogan's like, yeah, who works harder than pro wrestlers? And I want to say, Joe, fucking almost everybody. 270 days a year. That's what everybody who works a full-time job works.
Well,
right?
I mean, I think he's considering with all the traveling and all that. That's business people, I guess.
In the end, yeah, all the traveling and everything. But again, he says I worked 270 days on average, and I just want to say, fucking almost everybody were. And actually, to be perfectly honest, a lot of people work more than that because in America, a lot of people have 2 jobs, sometimes 2 full-time jobs. You know, where they're working 40 hours at one job and then working another 40 hours at another job just to make ends meet. And so that's why I just want to say, he's like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take away from what the Undertaker put his body through and the travels and all of that stuff. But we do have to take a moment to take a step back and say, yeah, everybody works 270 days a year. For the most part.
It's different though, because you are also diminishing the fact that they do take all these bumps and our bodies at 60 years old doing a regular 40-hour-a-day job won't nearly be as bad as their bodies.
You and I maybe, but what about the guy who worked 40 years in the coal mines in Arkansas or whatever? He puts his body through a hell of a lot more than a professional wrestler probably does.
But that's not almost everybody. Almost everybody is just a regular Joe.
Except for 100 years where it was almost everybody.
Where in those areas it was almost everybody. But on top of it, it's more people, right? In the grand scheme of things, there are more people today still working in coal mines in Appalachia than there are professional wrestlers in America. That's a provable fact, right? So those people still put their bodies through hell. More
than they did 50 years ago.
Less hell, but still hell, right? No, but I mean, again, I'm not trying to diminish.
It's also his guess, though. You're not gonna if you had the Undertaker on your thing and you mentioned the hours, and you're gonna want to appease to him too. You're not gonna say
that's why. That's why I'm not shitting on Joe Rogan. I'm shitting on the Undertaker right now because he's trying to humble brag about 270 days a year, and I'm like, fucking everybody does that.
I will give him one thing: sleeping in your own bed at night is very different than staying in a hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
It is, and there are.
However, you chose that profession.
You chose it. Number one. Number two. There are a lot of people that sleep in hotel rooms almost every day.
Yeah, and that's brutal.
And it's brutal. And those people are not necessarily professional wrestlers. They do other things, but like there are people who work for Union Pacific, which comes right through Nebraska, has its big switch yard in they've got here in Omaha, but they've got their switch yard in North Platte. All of that stuff. Those people, the conductors on that thing, they work at least 270 days a year on a train, sleeping in hotels or sometimes on the fucking train, right?
Yeah.
In shifts if it's a 24-hour train, right?
Or riding a van back 4 hours to their.
I mean, hell, I applied for a job for Schwann's. I didn't get it, and I'm thankful I didn't. But it was going to be
That's like 7 to 10 at night job.
Right? Yeah, well, and this one was going to be I would get up in the morning on like a Monday. I'd load up my van. I would drive like 5 hours to buttfuck Nebraska. I would do a Schwann's route around there, and then I'd stay a night in a hotel, and then I would drive to another place in bumfuck Nebraska. Not to be confused, they're two different Nebraska cities.
Yeah, that's down the road.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours down the road. They're close, but they're not. And then do a day there and sleep in a hotel, and the next day finish up and then drive back. Right, that was going to be my route.
Legitimately, a 48-hour shift, regardless of if you're sleeping. If you get to take a break and you're not working, you're not in your zone.
Yeah,
you're not in your territory.
And so that's ultimately, now this was just me taking a side tangent down because it's something that's bugged me every time that ad comes on. And it's like, I worked 270 days a year, and Joe Rogan's like, yeah, who works harder? You know, to be perfectly honest, Joe, you're probably one of the few people in America that doesn't work as hard as professional wrestlers. You know, I mean, I know people whose bodies, they worked for Tyson in fucking.
But is that bitch fuck?
Yeah, bitch fuck. I'm trying to remember, right?
But B-word fuck.
But they're working in a slaughterhouse, you know, in 10-hour shifts, killing fucking turkeys all day long, killing fucking turkeys, not killing / fucking turkey. That's a different job altogether.
Is it a chicken there? Or no, that one's cattle.
There are all sorts of them there, but in the end, they're putting their own bodies through their own stresses. They're going home because they're literally standing on concrete all day, lifting turkeys or moving the cattle around or whatever, the chickens, it doesn't matter, you know, and slaughtering them and cutting them in certain ways and putting them down the conveyor belt. They literally wreck their bodies doing it, and that's millions of Americans, and not just Tyson, but there's factories that people put their bodies through hell for.
Well, and that's not to degrade the telemarketer who sits in a non-ergonomic chair, and if they do sit in an ergonomic chair, they're sitting in one of the most uncomfortable chairs you could possibly imagine.
Thank you, Fabe. Thank you. It's great to be appreciated.
For 10 to 12 hours, staring at a screen, which is damaging their eyes, which is affecting their ability to sleep at night because of the blue light. All of those things are in play. They have fluorescent lighting, which we can see how much it affects just our two pictures here. Because I have fluorescent, you don't. You know, you have a much softer lighting. I have this very harsh light in my studio. You know, and again, I'm not saying that's more taxing on the body, but there's a different type of taxing there.
Yeah, and in the end, like,
don't ever degrade what somebody else goes through in their profession.
Yep.
Nurses who are afraid of COVID, nurses who are not afraid of COVID, and have the stresses of being nervous about hurting other people.
Yeah, you even take COVID out of the situation. Nurses who are on their feet for 10-hour shifts in an emergency room, on hard floors, you know, dealing with illnesses of all types, and patients who don't want to be there. Yeah,
the box store stalker, the warehouse picker, all of those have different things that are difficult.
Amazon delivery driver who has to run from his truck the front door and back 300 times a day.
The exhausted doctor who just completed a 9-hour surgery that saved somebody's life. Yeah, he's compensated really, really well. that doesn't make it any easier. He literally has somebody's life in his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So to pretend,
and he's standing for 9 hours, on concrete, on solid floors, and that's
with lacking ventilation because he's wearing a mask the whole time, and that's the safety of the other person.
Yeah, and that's ultimately, what it comes down to. I'm not trying to diminish what Undertaker. I'm trying to point out that the Undertaker was inherently diminishing what the people who pay his salaries jobs are. Yes, it's a tough life being a professional wrestler. I'm not trying to diminish that at all. It's so tough that Josh Alexander, who is the current X Division champion for Impact Wrestling, just like 2 weeks ago, was finally able to quit his other full-time job and become a full-time professional wrestler because it didn't pay him. He'd been on Impact Wrestling for years, and he wasn't making enough money on the independents and on Impact to afford to quit his full-time job. I want to say it was like at a lumber yard or something like that. Now he can afford to, thanks to the resurgence of Impact Wrestling, the partnerships with AEW, the ability to work independent wrestlings. He's officially now a permanent full-time wrestler. But it's just one of those things where just seriously, just understand. Yeah, you work hard. I get it. You got compensated very well for it. A lot of professional wrestlers don't. They have to bust their asses. That's why it's important to support the smaller indies like Zello Pro and whatever indie is in your area, because they're helping these wrestlers afford their day-to-day and everything. Sammy Guevara famously was working full-time at like a Taco Bell or wherever he could get a job that allowed him to have Saturdays off so he could drive from Houston to wherever in the area to work his professional wrestling and then come back and work his full-time job at Taco Bell with battered and bruised and all of that stuff to pursue his dream of professional wrestling. He now can afford to not do that anymore. And so it's just like don't demean what the average person goes through just because you chose
that
this
same token. Remember, and again, Mark Calloway himself has to remember there was a time where he was Mean Mark. Mm-hmm. There was a time where he wasn't Mean Mark before WCW, and he was traveling and he met, that's when he met Steve Austin or Steve Williams, those types of things. The other piece to this, there was also a possibility you were Eggman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love that he's not on the screen, but I can hear him laugh in the background.
Yeah. Well, that's it. There's
you were afraid you were the Gobbledygooker.
Yeah.
You were afraid you were the
yes, Undertaker, you worked 270 days a year. You know who also works 270 days that year, I'm sure? John Tenta. You know what I mean?
Who carried around a lot more non-productive weight than you did.
Yeah. Do you know who's not a guest on the multi-million-dollar podcast hosted by Joe Rogan right now? John Tenta, right? Because guess what? John Tenta didn't earn a tenth of what the Undertaker earned. Tenta.
He also didn't exactly get given the best gimmick. In fact, he went out and got a tattoo of his gimmick,
and then got that gimmick pulled away. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and move.
Tripped through a wall. Poor bastard.
Yes, poor bastard. We will go ahead and move on to the next crime. DA Fabe, you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll let you go.
Okay. So my crime.
Where is he at? Is he still here?
He's probably smoking, giving himself some cancer.
Did you go take a nappy?
I'm going to take a nap right here.
Oh, take a nap right here.
Okay. Good night.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, he's definitely not in the podcast right now.
Yeah, that's fine. So my crime I really wanted to not shit on WWE because I knew we were going to be shitting on WWE for Plane Ride from Hell. I knew that was going to be a topic.
I mean, you guys got some kinky stuff about you that you're, shitting on WWE.
Yeah, well,
on wrestlers.
But I have to go on WWE right now. We are 1 week away from Extreme Rules, right? 1 week away.
Exactly.
Exactly. 1 week away from the pay-per-view called Extreme Rules. We have 6 matches already announced for Extreme Rules.
Hi. Welcome back. We're not talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't talk about you being gone at all.
Over. Sorry you're gone.
We didn't talk about you being gone at all.
I wanted to get some sorbet, guys. Excuse me.
Is that raspberry? That looks like raspberry.
Sorbet.
Is that raspberry?
It's watermelon.
He got some raspberry.
Got some
sorbet.
watermelon sorbet.
Woo-hoo.
The kind you find at a secondhand
store.
Yeah, I've got a hint for you guys. Don't buy your sorbet at a secondhand store. You want that shit firsthand. That's what you want.
Store sorbet. Thrift store ice cream.
So anyways, we are exactly 1 week away from WWE Extreme Rules. Exactly. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We have 6 matches announced for WWE Extreme Rules.
We do.
Really?
Right? 6 of them currently announced. You want to guess how many of them have Extreme Rules stipulations already announced for them?
1.
Is there even one? Because I'm looking at the list and there are 0 announced with an actual Extreme Rules stipulation on them.
Oh, really?
Oh, I feel like one of them is no DQ, no?
I thought Biggie and Bobby was named already as a...
no.
Are you counting no DQ as a thing?
It's not listed as 100% announced yet. So that's not one of the 6.
Oh, okay.
So as of right now, we've got Carmella versus Liv Morgan announced, no stipulation. Right. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, no stipulation. Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss, no stip. Usos
kind of going to be hardcore though.
Yeah. Usos
got to be
versus
some demon stuff.
I'm sure there are stips.
I'm actually hoping that that's a cinematic.
I bet with live crowds back, we've met the end of the cinematic matches from WWE. I'm betting we've met the end.
That would be a good match to have cinematic though.
Yeah,
Alexa deserves a cinematic in the quality that Bray put out.
Yeah. If she tries to keep this character, I hope they give this a
good way to end this character too, though.
Yeah, but the Usos versus Street Profits, no stip announced. Damien Priest versus Sheamus, no stip announced. Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, no stip announced. Of course, there's the expected Big E versus Lashley rematch or official match, but no, it's not officially announced yet. It's not official. So, but my point is, like, I know at least 3 of those are going to have a stipulation. Like, I would bet the Charlotte Flair versus Alexa has some sort of Extreme Rules stipulation, whether it's a kendo stick match or some shit like that. I don't know. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch could have something added to it. Maybe. Usos versus Street Profits, I could see having it be, a no DQ or a street fight or something. But as of right now, we don't have any stipulation officially. That's where I'm like, not a one. My frustration, right? I don't expect to have the whole card filled with stipulation. Like, I fully expect some of these matches to maybe change because we got a week left and everything. But there still should be stipulations, like, at least hinted at. Like, I don't have on none of those do I have a clue, a hint of what the stipulation will be. Right. Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor. It's going to be the Demon. Is it going to be a no DQ match or a Inferno match? Or I mean, it's got to be something, right? But we have no clue. There hasn't been a hint, not a single hint yet in that. Damien Priest versus Sheamus, right? A broken face masks match?
No, it's an archer match where they play archery tag.
Yeah.
Archery tag.
It's a William
It
Tell
would
match
make the match more interesting.
where Damien Priest has to shoot an apple off of Sheamus's head to win. So you have to stun Sheamus so he stands there like this. Then you got to put an apple on his head, and then you got to go over to the other side and grab your bow. But that's my frustration.
And there's a time limit on that.
Yes. Well, because
Sheamus wins if he just makes it to this.
Because you can't stand there like this for too long. But that's my frustration. Now the slight add-in to that is, I mean, like, I look at that and I don't know. I mean, Bianca Bellaire versus Becky Lynch. If they've got to do something to make Bianca look like she belongs in it again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, she disappeared for 3 weeks after losing the belt, and then finally came back to have a homecoming celebration. Right. Would have made more sense to have her out there, complaining and bitching and, and saying, I need my shot to win that back because I was cheated out of it, and yada, yada, yada. But whatever.
Do we still know whatever happened to Sasha?
Nope. It's
Really?
never been.
Damn.
And reportedly, she's been backstage at some of the recent ones.
Is she filming? She doing some filming or no?
Reportedly, she's backstage and ready to go, and they just don't. That's all the reports ever say. That
Damn.
For whatever reason, it got her.
I mean, I can see the stop being from Mandalorian reshoots.
Yeah, as of right now, I haven't heard anything of her being because the next one they're
heard about it.
Well, the next one they're shooting is the Book of Boba Fett, which she wasn't even rumored to be involved in. She might still be, but
Carano now there's a possibility.
Yeah, well, even Carano wasn't expected to be in that because she was getting her own spinoff that got shit canned. But anyways, but to add to this, like I'm like sort of excited for the Charlotte Flair Alexa Bliss match, if only they allow Alexa to actually wrestle again and be competitive. Exactly. I'm hesitantly excited for Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, even though I'm like 99% certain they're gonna feed Finn Balor to Roman Reigns, and they're gonna give Roman Reigns the first victory over.
You've been recently pleasantly surprised by a title change. I'm just saying.
Recently, I do not expect it there. But in the end, the thing that ties into this though is then looking over to the other side of the field. We've got AEW putting together a pay-per-view level event this week, split between two shows, Rampage and Dynamite. And like Dynamite, we've got a non-title match, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. Yes.
But one of them is a WWE guy.
It doesn't matter. He was a Ring of Honor guy first. So Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho for the women's title.
But Ruby Soho was a WWE
That's fine.
girl.
Don't care. Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black. This is the one I might be the least excited for because I just worry.
But Malachi Black was it?
Yeah. But this might be the one I'm the least excited for just because I kind of want Malachi Black to get another victory over Cody Rhodes just to hammer down this thing where people are like, oh, Cody always comes back and wins in the end. Now just give him another victory and MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr.
Show.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
got a promoted show, so he's gonna win.
Yeah, that's why I hope they don't. I hope they swerve us with it, but I don't. MJF versus Brian Pillman Jr. should be a fire match. Darby Allin and Sting versus FTR.
I'll stop.
Could be fun. Then you go to Rampage. You've got Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. 8-man tag team match with Ortiz and Santana and the Lucha Brothers versus Private Party and Butcher and Blade.
That's gonna be fire. It's gonna be fire though.
Yeah. Too many people.
The tag team match with Men of the Year, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager.
I don't even know where this came out of, that match.
Yeah, well, I mean, it came out of nowhere when Inner Circle came out and confronted Dan Lambert.
Okay.
You know, so 6-man tag match: Christian Cage and Jurassic Express versus the Elite.
That's going to be fun.
Or as Adhole referred to it at the end of
Super Click,
the Super Click, right? A lights out tag team match with Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer and Minoru Suzuki.
Nice.
And CM Punk versus Powerhouse Hobbs in a singles match, right? So
that's
here,
a squash. I'm betting that's a squash.
Yeah, I'm betting it's CM Punk's first loss.
Yeah.
So?
Yeah.
I'm betting needs to get pushed.
I'm betting this is the way to push Powerhouse Hobbs over. I don't think it's going to be squash. I think it's going to be more competitive, but I think Powerhouse Hobbs is going to overpower him. Pun intended. But my point still is, AEW on their televised show has already announced more things that I can be excited over, as well as more stipulations than WWE has for their Extreme Rules pay-per-view.
That's valid. And me making fun of, but they're WWE guys, they've also used those said WWE guys more better in a span of 2 months than WWE has in all of the 4+ years that they've had these wrestlers.
He said more better.
Yep, more gooder.
More gooder.
Okay, so you ready for this?
I don't know. Let me get prepared.
I'm going to play a counterpoint. Ready? 4 words. Card subject to change.
Yep, that plays both ways.
That's the reason they do it.
No, I understand. But the ultimately, their job is to hype us up for Extreme Rules. And I'm not hyped up for Extreme Rules.
Yeah, but you're an anti-mark.
I still get hyped up for their pay-per-views, even though I fucking despise.
Yeah, I mean, he has to do my wrestling pool every
pay-per-view. I am so jacked for Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns that it does, because I'm going to pretend at least for another week that I've got confidence that the title's getting put on Balor. I really do. And next week I might eat my words.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, here's the deal. I think that'll be a good match regardless, right? Even when Finn Balor as the Demon loses, I think it'll be a good match. But like, my point is, we're supposed to be excited for these matches, and the way you build excitement for a pay-per-view called Extreme Rules is you say, it's going to be the Demon Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns inside a steel cage. What? And they might do that. They've got 2 more shows to do it. But my point is not social media. But we're a week away and they haven't done a single one yet.
Well,
not even one.
We've had this about Hell in a Cell. If the pay-per-view is going to be at Hell in a Cell, then all the matches should be Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
And if the pay-per-view is not going to be Hell in a Cell, if you're going to use Hell in a Cell as a match, then it shouldn't be a pay-per-view on its own.
Yep. And the deal is, Extreme Rules is such an easy pay-per-view to have that rule follow, right? Because Extreme Rules can be anything. It can be a street fight. It can be a cage match. It can be a tables match. It can be a
submission match.
It can be
just a unique
falls,
style of match.
Falls count anywhere match. It can be a barbed wire exploding death match. It can
boiler room brawl.
Yeah, boiler room. It can be an empty arena match on Sunday Night Heat. But
that works. I'm okay with that.
In the end, my point, the reason it's my crime is that they haven't done any of that. They haven't even given us a hint at it, right? Like, they had the Becky Lynch versus Bianca Bellaire thing on SmackDown. And I mean, maybe it's going to be in a cage because they made hints about the key, I guess. You know, you might have the key, but I've got this on lock.
I want to know what's on JLB's screen right now. Apparently, he's hoping for a strobe light match.
My bad. I'm actually watching. It was a nice little. It's basically the Raw Across the Nation song from from way back, but in an AEW intro. Sorry, I thought that was very creative, and it was actually pretty well done. Apologies for the strobing of the lights.
It could be a pissant match.
Yes, totally could be.
I don't know how you book that match.
If you guys really want the Attitude Era back, they've got 2 women's matches in there that could be bra and panties matches. At least be doing fucking something. I don't want them to be bra and panties matches. I'm just saying, at least you would be doing something.
No. Even no. No.
Only if it's Nia Jax.
But my thing is, like, they haven't even hinted at any of those. Like, the closest is Alexa Bliss and the whole doll thing, but that's not a hint towards a type of match. That's just like
a pole match.
Yeah,
which you can buy at $39.99 if you want the.
Yeah, you can buy the Charlie doll.
Can't believe they made that into a thing. I wonder how many people actually bought that.
Probably a lot. You really can't believe? You can't? Not at all?
I can. I guess I could.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. We aren't nearly as much about how much merch we can sell, and we sell shirts that say Pissing at Podcast.
That's valid.
AEW font.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the reports have it. The whole reason they gave Karrion Kross the mask and the suspenders was that it would make better marketing, right? Every fucking thing they do. Yeah, then you have a helmet to put on the action figure.
Yeah, but you're ending this feud. So to bring out the doll at the end of the feud, well, I guess we don't know if it's the end.
Are they ending it? Are they ending it? I don't know.
Maybe Charlotte now is going to have her own doll and walk around. And...
I mean, remember, the whole thing started as, effectively they're portraying this whole evilness as like a contagious thing where if you get too close to it, you can become evil yourself. So this could be, we could end up with evil Charlotte and her doll, and Charlotte's.
We already have evil Charlotte.
Yeah, but now she can have a playground.
Eviler.
And so it's just like, I just feel like they've just been dropping the ball so much on this Extreme Rules. And yes, I mean, part of it, they're dropping the ball with how absolutely fucking boring Raw is.
Oh yeah, they've dropped that ball.
Becky's the champ. Shut up.
I said Raw.
On Raw.
He said Big E
is the champ.
Oh, Big E's the champ. Yeah,
he did not say Becky.
Yeah, sorry, I heard Becky, but yeah, no, sure, great. They did Big E the champ, and that's great. But it was
like that segment of Raw.
Yeah.
On a Monday night 2 weeks ago.
Really yeah, it was just slightly less boring.
Well, look, but the reason why we mentioned that is because we're thinking WWE didn't plan for Big E to win the title that way. We're thinking it's just for a ratings grab. So that's, I think, why Smarks, I'm sorry to talk for you, good sir, but that's why I think probably Smarks is not necessarily thrilled by it, because it's not going to be a long-term thing.
Okay, so here's the deal. Everything they do is a ratings grab. Everything AEW does is a ratings grab.
Oh, Jesus.
All ratings grabs.
No, they all are.
Have to make money.
For sure.
Here's the deal is I'm not even angry as a ratings draw, and I'm not even thinking, because the reports have it that they were already planning on putting it on Big E after the draft, which is in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever, early October.
Next week.
2 weeks.
Not this week, next week.
End of next week, yes, because it's not going to start on Raw. It's going to start on SmackDown and then finish on Raw the following Monday. Anyways, but yeah, the reports have it that they were planning on doing it in a few weeks, and instead they moved it up to this to try to pop ratings because, yes, they have flagged in ratings. Their ratings haven't been strong. Their demo ratings haven't been strong. They've been beaten in the demo by AEW for 4 weeks straight. But in the end, here's the matches that we got on Raw. Charlotte Flair versus Shayna Baszler, which should have been a fire match. Drew McIntyre and the Viking Raiders versus Jinder Mahal and Shanky and Veer.
Because,
yeah, we wanted to see that. 11 minutes of Damien Priest versus Jeff Hardy. A singles match of Nikki ASH versus Tamina to set up their tag team match that hasn't been announced yet for Extreme Rules, but will probably be added to it. Which then fed into a singles match of Rhea Ripley versus Natalya, neither of which were fun to watch. 8-man tag team match with AJ Styles, Mace, Omos, and T-Bar versus Mansoor, Mustafa Ali, and the New Day.
Too many people.
A 2-minute squash match of Doudrop beating on Eva Marie, which, frankly, that's still 2 minutes too much Eva Marie on my screen.
And I don't even think it was even a match, technically. Because she had hit her beforehand.
Yeah, I think they rung the bell, but I don't know. I don't fucking care. I'm not even
doesn't
argue.
matter.
Right? Bobby Lashley versus Randy Orton that went for 13 and a half minutes, which is, I'm not saying it was a bad match. It was like, whatever. Right? And then Biggie coming down and cashing in and beating Bobby Lashley in 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Where more activity happened.
Yeah. The one exciting match of the night.
I mean, that was fast-paced.
Yeah. But the one exciting match of the night, the one thing that you gave 1 minute and 50 seconds, right? Now, again, it was pre-announced that Big E was going to cash in. And, of course, they play up, oh, is he going to actually cash in or not, or whatever. But I seem to remember on a previous podcast talking and saying that Big E, they've pitched him as a good guy character. He's going to be the guy who announces that he's going to cash in first, and he's not going to do a surprise cash in. And then the next week they had him announce on Twitter first, and then do his regular cash in exactly.
But he didn't
like
do a full good guy cash in. He did a semi good guy cash in. He waited for the other match to end.
He still waited for the other guy, but it still
waited. But there was another match.
There was another match, but he's still 100% good guy cash in because earlier on in the show they had the interview between Randy Orton and Bobby Lashley, and he stood there with the briefcase the entire time saying, "Whoever's the champion at the end, I'm going to cash in on. Right? Just so you know, I'm going to cash in on you. If you win, I'm going to cash in on you. Bobby, if you win, I'm going to cash in on you. So, be prepared. You're going to get cashed in on one way or another. Look at me because I'm the good guy. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen." It still was a great moment. I'm happy for Big E. No one in WWE deserves to be champion quite as much as him right now. And so I'm happy for him. But it's like they gave it 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Right.
I feel like so this is a dual this is to both WWE and the U-Smart, sorry. On the WWE side, scratch the fucking record. Smarks, scratch the fucking record, man. Like you're saying, you have the same nitpicks, and you have the same nitpicks because WWE doesn't scratch the fucking record. Mm-hmm. So I understand not scratching the record, but I also I guess there's not a whole lot bad about wrestling this week that JLB didn't take in his challenge.
But there wasn't really that much. I mean, NXT and Rick Steiner's son thing, maybe if you want to say, kind of stupid. Yeah. But there wasn't anything like, oh God, like wrestling was all right. I mean, Raw was kind of trash, but they had the Big E thing winning. Okay, great moment, cool, you did it, great. SmackDown, I don't even know what happened. on SmackDown necessarily. Not much.
Biggie and Finn Balor versus the Usos.
Oh, right. Yeah, because whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. Rick Boogs versus Robert Roode. Liv Morgan and Toni Storm versus Carmella and Zelina Vega.
So you give her a match on this Smack.
Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio.
Dominic won, right? Jesus.
No, Sammy did in 6 minutes.
Sammy won? Yes, thank God. Oh.
But like it's in the end, I'm bagging on Raw because it was boring, but my crime still is just the fact that they had that Raw. They could have built something of that into an Extreme Rules stipulation, and none of that built into an Extreme, like none of that led to a stipulation, right? Directly. Like Bobby Lashley is going to have his match, right? We know that's going to happen, but it's not official. They didn't have Bobby Lashley like immediately following, not even on social media, say, listen, it was unfair that I lost. I want a rematch at Extreme Rules. Put us in a cage. They didn't do anything. Nothing. And that's right. my crime is that we're a week out from Extreme Rules and we still don't know a single stipulation for Extreme Rules. Card may be subject to change, but you're still supposed to give us a card before you change it.
Yeah.
So that's my crime.
Yeah. And it's fair. I'm just saying,
Now, in fairness, I'm really, I know I've said this for weeks. I'm this close to just saying I'm gonna let weekly WWE be you guys' stuff, and fucking I'm just not gonna talk about it anymore because it's just like I'll get ready for the pay-per-views. We'll talk about the pay-per-views and I'll do all that stuff. But the week-to-week stuff, I'm about ready to just be out.
Won't work. Haven't watched Raw in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like
Becky was going to get the title. I just watched the recap.
Yeah. And to be fair, you only really need to watch the recap. If anything that Raw does, Raw gives you like a nice little 5-minute recap because that's all you even need. And it's like perfect. I didn't waste 3 hours of my life. I watched this recap for 5 minutes. I'm up to date.
You know what the final straw that broke the camel's back for me was Charlotte. She is so just photocopier heel bullshit. She is so much more capable than this photocopier.
You know, would be right now a way more desirable, interesting storyline to be told if they'd have put the belt on Shayna, right, and had Shayna be the cocky heel, and you could still have Alexa be the. I don't know why they decided Alexa's character needs to be the face in this storyline, but whatever. Right, you could still have Alexa, being the supernatural, bring out the doll. That storyline could progress about the same, but with a different person as the champion, it instantly becomes more watchable. Because how many times have we seen Charlotte as the champion comes out and talks stupid smack, right? And then so-and-so comes out.
She's really good at it, though. Because me too. I'm like, man, I'm tired. I'm annoyed of this.
It's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah. Again, you can be really good. Here's the thing. Do you know how Ric Flair, and I don't want to bring him up in this, but he's the best example. Do you know how Ric Flair got to be the best heel in the game? By occasionally being a face. Right? When was the last time Charlotte was a face?
Probably before her plastic surgery.
Yeah, I'm not even going to wait until you guys think it up because it's going to take forever to remember. That's my point. Is she's just been a heel for like the last 3 years straight. They haven't given her a face turn because here's the deal: the best time to turn a heel face is when they're super heel, and the best time to turn a face heel is when they're super over. Right? So you make her a face, you make her the good guy, you make her come out and save. Whoever, and help people out, and I've seen the error of my ways and all of this stuff. And then once she got a friend, she does the Flair thing and turns on him. Boom. And then she's got heel heat again. But right now she's a heel with no heat. She's got no heat. No one.
Yeah, she's got X-Pac heat, unfortunately.
And so.
So anyway.
But yeah, I guess I could say Braun Breaker is my crime for the week, but fuck.
Yeah.
Literally the guy's actual.
It's Braun Breaker, no? It's Braun Breaker?
Braun, Bron.
Oh, okay.
Because they already got rid of a different Braun, so they, just reuse it.
We own this
new Braun.
We'll just spell it a little different this time. But it's like I reports have it's 100% for the reason that I expect it to be. WWE knows they can't trademark Steiner because Scott Steiner and Rick Steiner having their trademarks on it, and giving him Rex Steiner is too close to Rick Steiner, and they would never get it. Even if they gave him Braun Steiner, they still were worried that they wouldn't be able to trademark it and monetize it. So they decided to give him a name that they could monetize.
Yeah, but they can't. I mean, you can't. Here's the deal: holding on to that name, it's not like I get Diesel figurines now. Yes, you're the only ones with the Diesel name in Kevin Nash's likeness. But at the end of the day,
yeah. But they want to be able to sell Braun Breaker figures now and get them on a.
But they can sell Rex Steiner figures now.
But they would have the trademark on it, and so they would have to give some of the proceeds to the trademark holder. They would have to. That's what it comes down to. They want all the proceeds for themselves.
Right. Or just not have a trademark.
Yeah, they've already filed for the trademark.
For Rex Steiner?
No, for Braun Breaker.
For Braun Breaker.
If they release it as Rex Steiner, they wouldn't have the trademark, and they would have to pay to use the trademark for Rex Steiner. They'd have to pay the Scott Steiner or Rick Steiner for the rights to use Rex Steiner. And they don't want to do that. And they like I said, everything's about marketing. It's the reason they put a face mask, a helmet on Karrion Kross, is they want to be able to market it. And so it's just like reportedly they sent out a letter to the or an email to the announcers on NXT that they weren't allowed to reference that he's a second generation superstar. They're not allowed to specifically mention that he's Rick Steiner's son, any of that stuff.
Oh,
wow. Keep in mind, Rick Steiner doesn't have a Legends contract with WWE.
Snap. Okay.
Which I'm sure plays into it.
And he probably doesn't because Scott doesn't right now. Because Scott's still wrestling.
Yeah. Well, Scott's still wrestling, and Scott's also persona non grata to WWE, apparently. They even reportedly have a sign up at the Hall of Fame ceremonies, like backstage, that this guy is not allowed into the backstage. He's
who?
Steiner, Scott.
Really?
Yep, he's blackballed from WWE right now.
Oh, snap.
But
I feel like he just faced Jerry Lawler in some indie show, though.
I'm sure.
I feel like I saw a video of that. Okay.
He did. I don't know what company it was, but but anyways, your crime, DA Fabe.
My crime. I'm gonna go positive. I want to be positive about this.
Yeah, buddy.
So you ready for this? There's too fucking much wrestling, and it's all really fucking good. Including the indie circuit. Go get an indie ticket. Anybody, whoever you are, wherever you're going, go get an indie ticket.
Yeah. And in fact,
instead of spending your credit card points on taking your best friend to Jim Gaffigan in Omaha, Nebraska, spend your points on a wrestling program. I don't know if I'm taking you to Jim Gaffigan, but
Jim Gaffigan's fucking awesome, but it's fine. Right, I'm taking you to Zello Pro, so it's good.
That's his way of saying you better fucking get me tickets to Jim Gaffigan.
Nah, it is all fine with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I went with my wife to Jim Gaffigan like 4 years ago, and I've never laughed so hard in my life for so long. It was literally.
I watched his most recent special with the 12 minutes of horse jokes. I about died. I was just like, it just keeps going. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, I never laughed so hard for so long as that. So
anyway.
So
indie
tickets.
Is literally the best era in wrestling. Yes, there was the 80s, and yes, that was what the rock and wrestling was. What put it on the map. It was no longer just your local wrestling, but because of that, we got higher quality wrestling. Then we had the 90s battle, where there was only going to be one supreme company, and they wanted to, and it literally murdered the indies. I mean, it annihilated the indies. There's not an indie company today that existed in 1992. None. Zero indie companies today that are the same indie. Now, there's locations that existed in 1992, but there's not. Vern Gagne no longer now. They may still own the equipment because I can see Smarks looking it up. They may own the equipment and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, those are not the same companies that existed in 1992.
The Gagnes were the ones. Well, the Gagnes were the ones who sold to Crockett, who then sold to WCW Turner, and then sold. So all the Gagne stuff would be owned by Vince. All the trademarks and stuff now.
But those types of companies didn't exist in the quality that we have today. We have at Zello Pro, not at AEW, not at even GCW, not at AAA Wrestling, but at Zello Pro, a Minneapolis-based or Chicago-based organization that does some small traveling. We literally have Jordan Grace. We literally have Chelsea Green. We literally have a hardcore icon who may or may not still be wrestling because of some stupid stuff he said, but Tommy Dreamer. We literally have Justin. Jordan Grace's fiance.
Oh, Jonathan Gresham.
Jonathan Gresham. So we have some of these really,
Colt Cabana.
wrestlers. Colt Cabana,
Billy and Austin Gunn.
We've got icons. We've got up and comers. This is your opportunity to support your local wrestling. And here's the deal: we're gonna see somebody who's based out of Nebraska at this Omaha show. We don't know who it is, but they don't do this without bringing on somebody. And it could very easily be somebody from Omaha, and that's 2.5 hours away from this venue. But we're gonna see somebody who's based out of Nebraska for this.
How do you know?
We're gonna get some exposure because it always happens at indie shows. Always happens at indie shows.
Even more than that, even taking the indies out of it, and you go to the biggers, right? AEW right now is on. This was a statistic that came out. AEW and WWE are going to be in the same arena in Long Island, New York, a week apart.
Yeah.
AEW in the first day sold 5,500 tickets to it, and has sold, as of earlier today, over 6,000 tickets. WWE, whose tickets have been on sale. Let's see when it was. Just the other day, right? Has only sold 2,365 seats for the same event, same venue, same thing, 1 week apart, right? And so obviously WWE is struggling to sell tickets to this, but AEW is thriving. AEW likely will sell out the 8,000 seats.
Circuit is what's made this possible. The survival of the indie circuit through the very difficult time of the WCW versus WWE war, Monday Night War. The survival of the indie circuit is what made this possible.
Yeah.
WWE being dumb enough to try and photocopy what they used to have. This is the greatest era in professional wrestling. I'm not telling you that your local indie show that happens weekly is going to be better than. I am telling you that we can continue to have our product, the product that we're all fans of, continue to grow if you go to these indie shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you skip Raw that night, skip NXT. Hell, if it's a Wednesday night, you can even skip AEWs. That dude's probably going to end up there if he's really, really good.
Well, and to
use say he's come beforehand.
Yeah, and to use AEW as a perfect example, the Wednesday night ones probably this won't happen on, but the other ones, AEW specifically has in their contracts that people can continue to wrestle the indies as long as it doesn't compete with an AEW event, right?
Yeah.
Impact Wrestling, because they pre-tape 3 weeks at a time, allows their wrestlers to wrestle at indies as long as it doesn't compete with the pre-tape. Ring of Honor is allowing their wrestlers to wrestle the indies as long as it doesn't compete with the Ring of Honor tapings, which are reportedly going to be happening inside a closed set with no fans again. NWA allows their wrestlers to wrestle at indies. You know, New Japan allows their wrestlers to appear at indies as long as it doesn't compete with the New Japan US tapings or whatever. So we're going to see GCW is effectively just a big indie, and their wrestlers can wrestle anywhere. So yes, exactly. We will see people at the Zello Pro that we either have recently or will soon see on AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor.
The last time Kearney, Nebraska had professional wrestling was a shithole show out of Omaha. Before that, it was WCW on a pass-through.
Uh-huh.
To give you an idea how rare it is to be able to pick up those shows in these rural areas, it just typically doesn't happen. And now we've got a Saturday, and that WCW show, were you at that, Smarks?
I believe
I just don't remember if that was.
I believe I was, but I'm trying to see if I can.
98, 97, something like that. Anyway, that show, that WCW show, was a random Thursday night crap hole show that wasn't Thursday or Wednesday. It was a midweek show. You weren't going up against anything.
Yes, I was at that show because that was the Lance Storm. You like him?
That's right. That's right. So that show was a random during the week, thrown together 2 weeks beforehand, something like that. Zello Pros coming to us on a Saturday night in rural area. You guys have the ability to go to rural wrestling, and we can get the heyday of professional wrestling. You can get all the great stuff that was 1970, 1980, the ability to watch a show on any night of the week if you wanted to go live, the ability to go to a Saturday, to have your buddies out Saturday night and go. You can also have the ability to watch high quality wrestling. And quite frankly, these local shows tend to put on really good shows now because the same dude you're watching on Wednesday, Friday, Monday, well, not Friday or Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I guess you can't watch Friday, or Tuesday, or Thursday, or Saturday night, really late at night because it's Sinclair. The same people you're watching those shows with might be at those shows. GCW did not expect Moxley. In fact, they didn't know who had just beaten Matt
Cardona.
Matt Cardona. Except for that, it was Moxley.
Yeah.
So he did take off his mask, though.
Yeah. So the WCW event in Kearney, Nebraska was it looks like December 3rd of 2000.
2000. So it was a few years old, newer than I thought.
And then in 2002, there was a World League Wrestling event.
And that's the one where the kid from Holdridge, Nebraska, was wrestling.
And then in 2009, there was a TNA house show.
I didn't know anything about that. Both of us were watching wrestling at that time.
And yeah, I mean,
Well, you weren't quite watching it.
I was still
watching TNA.
I might have been watching TNA. I might have been back in the Ring of Honor. As a house show, and let me see if there was anyone worth it on that.
Was that Carney?
Yep.
Event Center? Wow. So there were two shithole shows.
Yep. Eric Young versus Consequences Creed, now known as Xavier Woods.
Would have been a great match, but at the time, nobody would have known.
Mm-hmm. Awesome Kong versus ODB.
I'd have gone for that. I'm surprised I didn't know about it.
I think it's Christopher Daniels versus Abdul Bashir, but it's just listed as Daniels, so I have to check, see if it's Christopher.
Yeah, I probably would have avoided it solely because Christopher Daniels is a good because I don't like
Suicide versus Homicide and Jay Lethal in a 3-way match. And this probably would have been
but that was during the downswing. That was down.
That would have been probably Kazarian as Suicide.
Okay.
At that time. Matt Morgan versus Abyss. We just talked about Matt Morgan.
Son of a bitch. I probably would have gone to this if I'd have known about it. Matt Morgan and Abyss alone would be enough.
This match alone would have been enough. Beer Money, which is James Storm and Robert Roode, versus Kurt Angle and Scott Steiner.
Oh man, how did I not go to this? Okay, well there's been one shithole one and one other really good one.
Anyways,
but yes, go here often, and so go buy your tickets, buy your local ones because they will come to your area more if you do it. Yes. They keep giving our area a chance, and I apparently effed up, and that's why it was 12 years between visits to Central Nebraska.
Yeah, that's
why I guess I don't have a problem with that in Montreal, but we're a big city and all that. Tons of indie feds here, so it's always pretty exciting.
Yes, but still important to support your local indie.
There used to be an indie wrestling organization in the town Smarks lives in, and people weren't going because it was the WWE era. I'm glad that era is over. I do want WWE to put out a better product, but I'm glad that era is over for that reason. Because now people might go, you know what? Screw it. It's Saturday night. Let's go down to is Ice House still a thing in Omaha?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, they were a big enough bar to have had professional wrestling. Let's go to Ice House and watch wrestling.
Let's see.
It's been 20 years since I lived in Omaha, so
I'm gonna have to look up. What is this? Pro Wrestling Phoenix, because apparently they just had an event here in Omaha a couple weeks ago.
Omaha's different though. That's a metro area. Mm-hmm. It's the 40th largest metropolitan area in the country. So, I mean, they're knocking on the door of being professional sports. Yeah.
But my point is, I'm just going to have to look them up and see what their schedules are.
And it's tough. It's tough to keep up with. And quite frankly, I will say that MMA makes things a little bit tougher.
See if they had anyone at this event that I would know offhand. And not seeing any name I recognize. But it'll be interesting to see if in the future we recognize any of those names.
That worldwide wrestling one, I remember there was a kid from Holdridge, Nebraska that was the big deal, and they pushed it. That's why I was like, I'm not going.
Waiting room lounge.
Pushing is the local guy. I'm not going.
But yes, support your indies, because here's the deal. That's where the future stars of WWE, well, maybe not anymore.
Not WWE.
AEW, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, even New Japan. The indies are where they come from.
If you want to support future WWE, just watch NCAA football.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
And then watch the draft, and if your favorite player doesn't get drafted,
or gets drafted really, really low, or goes to someone's practice squad.
Yeah,
right.
that guy is likely to be a WWE wrestler
or
real estate agent,
or watch amateur wrestling, but you have to specifically pick a favorite person who goes on to qualify for the Olympics, but maybe not actually do well at the Olympics. They might do well, but those are the ones that WWE might say, come here.
Roughing up Chad Gable today, huh? All right.
Well, I'm also pointing out their big Gabe Stevenson signing, who they reports have are going to send straight to the main roster. Push him like the next Brock Lesnar.
Here's the deal. Brock actually won the NCAA championship twice.
Yeah, but wasn't the guy like a 2020 gold Olympian?
I don't know if he won the gold, but he was an Olympian. Yes. I think
he won the gold. I think that's the whole thing. That's why they got him. What's his name?
ABC. I'm looking it up right now because
they tried to get Rulon Gardner, but Rulon Gardner went and started real pro wrestling, and that flopped because wrestling meets are entertaining for those of us who used to wrestle.
Gabe Stevenson.
I mean, how many times do we have to hear about Dolph Ziggler having been a amateur star at Kent State?
Yes, he did win the gold. American super heavyweight to win freestyle Olympic gold since Bruce Baumgartner in '92. So there
you go. So quit your bitching on him.
But my point still is, regardless of all of that, Olympic wrestling and pro wrestling are two completely different things entirely. Yes, and absolutely. In the history of pro wrestling, there have been very few Olympic wrestlers who have actually marked a really good career, and it's Kurt Angle. And
done. You're done.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I love Chad Gable. I think he's way more talented than WWE gives him credit for. But because WWE controls his career, I don't ever think Chad Gable in WWE will be a world champion. Right? I don't think Chad Gable, with the path that his career currently is going in WWE, I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, unless they've got like a really, really thin class, and they're like, Chad Gable.
Right.
You know, should we give the NWO another Hall of Fame thing? Who will say just the Wolfpack gets in?
Oh, snap. They definitely might do a Wolfpack thing. I feel like that's a legitimate thing.
Well, they didn't include $1 Million Man in the NWO induction, but they did include, or Big Show, or I'm sorry, the Giant. This is both guys who were there before Six was.
LWO gets into the Hall of Fame.
Highly unlikely.
BWO.
BWO, Blue World Order. Can we get Meanie? No, Meanie won't come.
Okay. How about Stevie Richards? We could do the right to censor.
Right to censor, yes. We could get Bull Buchanan.
His kid can accept. We got him.
Yes, we'll get his kid. Yeah, we'll do that. Sorry, Chad, you've been pushed back another year.
Damn.
That makes the Godfather a 2-time, 3-time if rights to censor gets in. Val Venus at 1 time.
Yeah,
Val Venus is probably not even going to get into the right to censor. They're like, no, we have the right to censor your antics on social media too.
We have Steven Richards and Godfather come out. We ignore the fact that Molly was part of rights to censor. We certainly ignore Serena Deeb because,
Why would they ignore Molly? She produces for them now. They definitely wouldn't ignore Molly.
She was a woman in the early 2000s. Duh.
Oh, Jesus.
Didn't we have this conversation at the very beginning of this?
Okay. Let's see here.
Very different. Yeah, but we're 2021. So if this was a Hall of Fame in 2001, yeah, I'd agree with you. For sure, they'd ignore her. But no.
Technically, Ricky Choshu was an Olympic wrestler. So, He performed in WWE at one point.
Okay.
Did Bad News Brown ever do in WWE? Yeah, he was in WWE. He was an Olympic wrestler. Apparently.
Oh yeah.
Took home a bronze. Jeff Cobb was an Olympic wrestler, but he never went to WWE. So Iron Sheik was at the Olympics as assistant to the coach for the 72 Olympics wrestling team.
Oh wow. Who would have thunk it?
Carl Gotch, of course, was a big wrestler, but I don't know if he ever actually wrestled for the WWF / yeah, technically Ronda Rousey, but she wasn't an Olympic wrestler. She was Olympic judo. So,
yeah.
Oh, that
different thing altogether.
Yeah, but doesn't the Olympics have like a judo thing?
It does, but we're specifically talking about Olympic wrestlers. That's what my whole joke was about.
Oh, fair enough.
So she wasn't a wrestler. That's my point. Mad Dog Vashon.
Oh yeah.
1948 Olympic team was 7th
Jesus
overall.
Christ, this guy's really going back.
Yeah, that guy doesn't count because he wasn't a wrestler. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, and he definitely is worth talking about and mentioning, but he wasn't a wrestler at the Olympics. He was a power lifter, and his name is Mark Henry.
Yeah. Who went back and proved he was the world's strongest man in the deadlift again.
Yeah. The Mark Henry actually brings me to a fucking funny story out of not directly wrestling related, but he's a good example. There are a lot of people all angry. The new God of War video game is coming out, and they released some preview art, and it's God of War Valhalla, and it's all like Norse mythology based and everything, right? And they released a preview art for Thor of it, and everyone's all up in arms because they gave Thor a belly, right? He's a big guy with a big round belly and a big hammer and all. And everyone's like, that's not what Thor should look like. He should look like Chris Hemsworth in the Marvel movies and whatever.
They gave Chris Hemsworth a belly.
A belly. But on top of it, here's the deal is if you actually like the bodybuilder physique that we think of for strongmen is not the strongman physique, right?
No, world's strongest man. I mean, you think about Magnus for Magnuson.
Yeah, Magnus for Magnuson. Mark Henry, even Hafthor Bjornsson, who was the Mountain on Game of Thrones and powerlifting champion, world's strongest man champion. I mean, he's literally named Hafthor. And he's training for a boxing match and he's got all cut, but in his powerlifting time he wasn't. If you actually watch powerlifters, right, the biggest and best powerlifters typically are not cut, right? The world's strongest man competitions where they're fucking towing 747s and shit. Those people, none of them are cut. And every single one of them could probably outlift the biggest and most cut, bodybuilders out there. So I just think it's funny because everyone's like, that's not what he should look like. He's Thor. He's supposed to be strongest. He's half god. I mean, he's supposed to be really, really strong, right? Watch the people who throw the fucking cannonballs over the high jump things and tell me what they look like. They don't look like Thor. They don't look like Chris Hemsworth Thor. They look more like this Thor.
With the caber toss, yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I find that picture.
They look like they could win a couple beers.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I said win a couple beers. I don't even know what that means.
Let's see if I can find this picture that everyone's all.
I'm a pissy at Thor.
Yes. Share this.
Side note: we've hit our mark, so
yeah,
get your little picture up, and then let's move on.
That's the Thor.
He's also a villain instead of a. So villains have to have something to vilify them, and even pro wrestling has proved this. I mean, John Tent is a great example. Villains are fat.
Yep, but he's also supposed to be a strong man in the Norse mythology, where they fucking sit around drinking mead before they go out and destroy shit.
Correct.
Right.
I find it odd that he has red hair instead of blonde hair. That part I do find odd.
But anyways, that's all. I just thought that was a funny story.
They're wrong.
They're idiots and wrong. Yes.
Yeah.
You're wrong. Anyways, commendations and misdemeanors, anything?
A commendation to Zella Pro for coming to rural Piddly-ass Nebraska. Thank you very much.
Seconded. Any objections? Done. I pretended to be a judge with a gavel. I don't have a gavel. I'm not a judge. I'm a detective.
Misdemeanor for NXT. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Just.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is that? Who the fuck is this guy in the fight for the heavyweight championship? And we've never fucking seen him before. Who the fuck is this?
That's really the only question you can ask.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Who
the fuck is that? Yeah.
Also a commendation to I gotta put this out. The Twitter world has been a lot more fun than I gave it credit for, and so this is a misdemeanor to me for. I'm still not gonna start like being part of the Twitter world. But, two commendations to this. Number one, to Buddy Murphy for trolling the crap out of us. I rolled over and looked at my phone as I woke up. I was like, oh. And the notification that came across that I usually ignore is Buddy Murphy calling Brian Cage pussy. Okay, well, we don't know where you're going, but boy, that was good.
It gets people talking.
Wait, who called who a pussy?
Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, Buddy Murphy. Buddy Matthews.
Buddy Matthews called.
Oh, I thought it was Josh Matthews. Okay. No. Do we know why?
No. I mean, here's why. Here's why. To get us fucking talking about Buddy Matthews, maybe going to AEW, which I'd love for him to go there. So, wishful thinking and everything. Reports have it.
If he lands somewhere else, then it's just a solid statement because Brian Cage isn't going to respond if they don't pick him up.
Yep. Reports have it that Impact was close to some sort of a deal with him, but that might have just been Impact trying to toot their own horns. Whatever. But anyways, second to that one.
To Gargano and Candice LeRae for quite possibly the funniest baby review
that was awesome.
I think I've ever seen.
That was hilarious.
Socials there, guys.
Congrats on the impending boy.
It's a boy. The dog popping the balloon in Candice's face.
What did you do? What did you do?
Well,
that's the baby review balloon. Wait, use that pop.
Man, the messed up thing is Johnny Gargano acting like that is literally how we all, not how we all, but literally how a lot of
men would be.
Men would be, though, completely. It's like spot on. We play stupid or we are stupid.
I just loved the entire time he's like trying to one up the baby reveal. He's like, wait, no, we can't just do a balloon baby reveal. We got to do something big like fucking fireworks or some shit like that, right?
Oh, he does more with this?
No,
in the video.
In the video, he's saying we got to get. I can't remember what it was. We got to get like an alpaca or something like that. And she's like, "Where are we gonna get an alpaca?" He's like, "I got an alpaca guy." Right?
His name is Paca or whatever.
Yeah, his name's Paca. But then the dog pops the balloon on Candice, so Candice is then covered in the blue powder. And it's a boy.
He's so excited. Also, to Candice LeRae the next day for putting props to her friend, Mr. Bebe, because the baby in the ultrasound, the baby is doing this, which I absolutely
boom. Love. I would just
one hand in the
yeah, just the one. But I would like to point out that recently both Cody Rhodes and Moxley have had children, and they've both been girls. And so now with the Garganos having a boy, could we have a potential dynasty in the future? I'm just saying. A Moxley Gargano union 20 years from now?
A nightmare baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but is there rumors that Gargano's going to go to AEW?
Well, there's rumors that Gargano's not going to resign, but it doesn't matter. I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about the babies as they grow up.
We're talking about their kids.
We're talking about a love match.
They're still going to be split away, okay? Because WWE is still going to be there.
I'm talking about an arranged. I'm talking about a union of the tribes. Rights. I'm talking about a union of the tribes, the warring tribes. This is the Montagues and Capulets coming together.
Okay, so we're just going to completely disregard Becky's baby? Why doesn't she get dibs on Gargano's boy?
Nope. Because that's not bring together the warring tribes.
Okay. Fine. Why did they have a tag team or something? Why is that not bringing together the warring tribes?
Because they're all WWE right now. Bringing the warring tribes together.
All right. That's fair.
Wow. Wow. That's the joke going over his head. Wow. Wow.
This is the joke, sucking balls.
Catch us on Wednesday nights when we do Baby Matchmaker. That's right.
Yes. Baby Matchmaker Institute. That's what we're going to start doing from now on.
Whoop, whoop.
And we're going to do it all in ASMR. So,
I would love to whisper. It would be a good time.
Welcome to Raw and Order, the Wrestling Booking Unit's ASMR feed.
The baby maker, the maker.
I am your host, Detective Marks Marks, and I am joined, as always, by my partners in crime fighting. District Attorney Vincent Kayfabe. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm excited to hear about some.
Okay, that's enough of that.
Now whispering. What up, everybody? I can't boy, Justin JLB.
If I whisper, it doesn't sound right. I do the deep voice. I'll be Barry White.
Yeah, you were not a Barry White deep voice. Your voice is deep. No one could go as deep as Barry White. Pause.
Whoa. That's what his songs are about.
His songs are all about going deep.
In terms of me, I'm going to give an accommodation to the amazing promo between Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. I thought that was spot on. That was awesome. That was bringing backstage stuff into the wrestling, which every company has done now.
This was taking the chains off of Ruby Soho.
Yeah.
This was showing what she could do when not held back by WWE rules and regulations.
Calling yourself the Runaway? You got fired. I was like, oh, snap. And you know what? Yeah, Britt, you're just like every other
everyone of the broad I've ever been. You know, out here entitled and banging some dude in the back.
And then she was like, great promo. I love that.
Yes.
It would have been better if she just said some dudes in the back. I mean, Shivani and.
Yeah, Shivani's not in the back. He's over there.
He was in the ring.
He was in the ring at the time. Yeah.
I was like, when Adam Cole was like, you even look at her wrong once, I was like, oh my God, dude, you sound like a sociopath. Stop
yeah, why did Adam Cole even do that? Threaten Shivani? Like, bro, I know you're a heel and whatever, but I mean, come on, it's Shivani.
No, but it's the easiest way to get super heel heat right now. Shivani's super popular right now. Everyone loves Shivani. He was the voice of my childhood, I always say. More so than Jim Ross, because I was a WCW guy myself. So for me, when I think of professional wrestling, when I think of all the biggest moments in professional wrestling from my youth, it's Tony Schiavone.
Okay.
But so he's the ultra baby face. It's Sting. I responded to someone on Twitter was like, name a professional wrestler whose name doesn't have an A in it. I bet you can't. What? It's harder than you think. And I responded, it's Stang.
Or like Booker T.
There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. Although I will want to point out, someone went through and did like a list of like 10 of them, but one of them that he put in there was Ric Flair, and I'm like, you typed that out. Did you know what letter you hit in the middle of that last name?
Seth Rollins.
Yep, Seth Rollins is an easy one.
Edge.
Yep.
Becky Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
It's Becky.
Yep. Triple H.
Yeah, there's just a ton of them. I mean,
there are. It's not
even hard.
Even if you use Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you still
you could even do the whole name exactly. There's a lot of them. There's a whole lot of them.
I mean, kudos to him. He got him. He got us talking about him on the podcast.
But my point is, I like my answer because I spelled it Staang. It's dang. I was like, oh crap, never mind. But
thank God no one was like, that's not how you spell Sting. No shit, Sherlock.
I got kind of a misdemeanor for AEW. And my misdemeanor is this. Because I gave crimes to WWE last week for missing the layups, right? They missed an absolutely perfect layup with the Miro versus Fuego match from Rampage, where
a while ago.
Nope, this was just this week on Rampage.
Oh,
they had a rematch
2 days ago? Okay.
2 days ago. They had a rematch. Fuego put his car up. He said his car for title. Right. If I win, I get the TNT title. If you win, you get the new car that the new used car that I was able to buy with my new check from my new job at AEW. Right. Because and Miro beat the crap out of him. And
his car keys.
And yeah, but here's the layup that they missed. They should have done. I don't care if they released it on social media later. Or if they did it live on the show or whatever, not live, pre-recorded on the show, but they absolutely missed a chance to have fucking Miro going all fucking Zangief on the car in the parking lot, just like Street Fighter 3. This was
he gave him the keys back though.
He didn't. I've sort of forced the keys into his mouth before he put them in the game over. But it doesn't matter. You know what Zangief did on the car in Street Fighter 3?
Yes, I'm aware.
Obviously. He fucking destroyed it. That's all I wanted. I wanted to see Miro destroy a fucking car. Right? I won. It's my car now. I'm going to fucking demolish it. WWE would have done it. WCW would have done it. Right? WCW wouldn't have had the opportunity to put it on social media, but they would have done it right for the show. Right? Right. And AEW, and it's not like this is the first time AEW has had a car involved in a thing. They could have just gotten a junker car and had Miro after the match go out and destroy it and fucking rig it so you can flip it on its top, or don't rig it and let it just buy a tiny little Geo Metro or something that Miro can just fucking flip easy.
Yeah, gutted Metro.
Mm-hmm. Just something, but I just wanted to see Miro. This was a slam dunk. Miro wins the match, destroys Fuego, and then goes and destroys his car.
Doesn't want Fuego to even think he can go get it.
Yep. So here I'm going to destroy the car. Yeah. I mean, this is obviously setting the eventual match, Sammy Guevara versus Miro, for the title, which
I'm down for.
Yep. I'm good, but I'm just like, it's a layup. It's something, and now maybe on Dynamite they'll show footage of it happening or something, but they needed to do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's valid.
But kudos, commendation to Brian Pillman Jr. for wearing the exact same shirt that his dad wore on WCW. The Tiger face.
Snap. Nice, didn't realize that.
So, and
did they
and
mention it?
I don't know if they mentioned it, but it came up. I came across my Twitter feed, and I was like, "Holy crap, that is the exact same shirt!"
Wow.
Okay, I gotta ask: just a quick prediction. Does MJF go on a two-match losing streak? He was undefeated until Jericho beat him this year. Does he go on a two-match losing streak?
Who's he facing?
Brian Pillman Jr.
Brian Pillman Jr.
Oh, right.
I don't think so. But maybe. And here's my speculation.
You think Wardlow causes?
I think it's Ward. I think that's the way it happens if it does happen. If Wardlow doesn't turn, then MJF is going to beat Brian Pillman because it's not in Cincinnati for this one. So, that was the whole reason.
Around the corner. This Wardlow turn is happening soon.
Yes, they've been hinting at it. They've been getting MJF being more flippant toward Wardlow and being like, "Don't fail me again" and quit being stupid, things like that. And Wardlow's going to eventually do it. They've been hinting. Now, AEW has kind of been known for their longer term storytelling, and it could be months in the future. So that's why I'm not really certain. But if they were to do it, this would be a good time to do it. Have it because they've been hinting a lot of it during this Brian Pillman thing.
Also, a good time to do one of the first, and maybe the very first disqualification victories.
It would be the first one in a non-Iron Man match. The only other one that's happened so far in AEW has been one of the falls in the Pac versus Omega Omega Pac versus Omega match. Anyways, so yeah, either a disqualification or a full turn by Wardlow costing the match, allowing Brian Pillman to win. But that would be. But I'm not 100% sold that it's going to happen yet. And so if the turn doesn't happen, then Brian Pillman's going to lose. But I will point out they did really good with allowing the hometown boys in Cincinnati to get the hometown pop and get the recognition and all of that stuff and get that face heat.
Also,
to build this up.
MJF, good job being a fucking prick. God,
yep.
Brian Pillman's
so good at
sister.
that.
Oh my God. I was just like, what the fuck, man?
Yep.
Was it this week he also said you suck? What was it? It was in Houston. When was he when were they in Houston? It was like you're just like the crowd, you suck just as much. Maybe it wasn't Houston. He was name dropping a few people though that were like popular in that hometown, and you suck just as much as he was referring to women in that state, like them being just completely sloppy. Never mind. But I don't know. It was just.
It's been a month since they were in Houston.
Oh, snap.
Then in Chicago, they were in Milwaukee a few weeks ago.
I feel like it was
Chicago
Jersey
again. They're going to Jersey. That's where the New York.
No, it was definitely.
Well, no, I guess
it might have been a while ago. Then
no. Last week's ones were in Jersey. 2 weeks ago was the ones in Cincinnati, but last week's were in Jersey.
Okay, so that would have been the one. You suck more than your Jersey Shore sluts or something, and I was like, oh my God, he's great. He's a great heel.
He is.
God, I really like the dude as a heel. I want to stab him every time he talks.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect.
Like he's so good, he can bring back the people believing it's so real that they want to kill him after the match.
For sure.
After the show. Like that. Oh my God.
But yeah, that's I think all I have for this show. If you guys are done, we'll probably draw this to a close.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I don't know what else. Thank God Dark Side of the Ring happened, or else I would have had nothing negative to say. Granted, the positives were there, but
you'd have found something.
We could have done it.
He uses the same thing every single time.
Yeah, we could have done an entire show shitting WWE Raw. It's what we've done before, and I mean, it was fucking like all of the crimes could have been Raw being boring and then one positive crime but they did give Big E the title, so there's that.
Right.
But other than that, no. I mean,
and it took him 2 big indies.
Yeah, but
you still put over Lashley a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, we will draw this to a close. If you joined us for the live stream, thank you. If you did not, but are watching this on one of the replays on Facebook or
fuck yourself.
YouTube, yeah, go fuck yourself. Why weren't you here for the live stream? Seriously, right? You think we do this just to hear ourselves talk? We do, but that's beside the point. But if you're listening to this on one of the replays or the cast, thank you there. We appreciate it. We would really appreciate, though, if you'd head over to our YouTube page or our Facebook page, or both, preferably, and give us a like or subscribe on those. Helps us out immensely. We would love for you to join us for the live streams. We understand they're not at the most convenient time for a lot of people, so I get it, I guess. We would do this at a better time, but we don't fucking want to. So...
Also, the 5, we haven't talked about this in a little while. Remember Apple Podcasts, 5 stars.
5 stars. Yes. 5. Just like 5. The number of stars you will give your vacation to beautiful Turks and Caicos if they ever open up the borders again.
Well, their borders are open. It's the water that's
yeah, true. Problem. Yeah. It's a pretty long swim.
Yeah. And you can't fly there.
Yeah. I mean, you could get a little kayak and
you can paddle boat.
Yeah, you gotta have good cardio for the paddle boat that far, though.
Good upper body workout.
But but you can also support us in other ways, like joining our Patreon or heading over to our merch store at rawandorderwbu.myspreadshop.com. That's the new address for it, and
or you can still use the old one, which is shop.spreadshirt.com/rawandorderwbu.
Yes, you still could use that one for the time being, at least. But head over there.
What happened?
Spreadshirt's changing things up. That's all it comes down to. Is
we have 2 sites.
Yeah. It used to be shop.spreadshirt.com/rawandorderwbu, but for reasons that are too boring to get into here, they changed it to rawandorderwbu.myspreadshop.com. It's long and technical and stupid.
But no, it's kind of better. It's the same.
It's better. Anyway. It's just hard for me to remember because I spent a year saying shop.spreadshirt.com/rawandorderwbu. So I'm just trying to get myself in the new habit. Jeez.
Fair enough. Jeez. I would like to know the reason now. You said it was boring, but
it is boring. It's mostly Facebook related.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's literally it. It's like Facebook said for integration into Facebook, we don't want to do shop.whatever.com/ anymore. You need to have it in the first part of the subdomain. And they're like, okay, also, we'll do that.
Side note, physically go to Spreadshirt or Shirt Shop or whatever it's called. Because you'll miss out on a couple things because Facebook banned JLB from getting a mask because it wasn't medical gear.
Yeah.
Or just medical gear.
They took it off. They said the face masks are medical gear, so we can't show them on the. You can still go to the Facebook site and browse and all that stuff, but just know that you will see. Like I uploaded a new design and I just chose not to put it on masks because I didn't want to fucking deal with Facebook going, no, it's a medical device.
Yeah,
fucking cloth mask.
Well, I mean, at the same time,
year and a half into this shit,
people give him shit. People give them shit regardless, though. People give them shit regardless. So they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. Oh, you guys don't do enough on this. Oh, you guys let this go through. So at the end of the day, they're going to be,
In the end, arguing that a face mask is a medical device is like saying pants are a medical device because they stop me from peeing on other people. Are they going to start censoring that or removing that just because it's a medical device? I mean, I wouldn't pee on other people.
No problem.
I might pee on other people.
If they got stung by a jellyfish, you'd certainly pee on other people.
No, I would not, because I know the science that it does not work. And I'm pee shy.
That's the real reason.
You like him? That kid you to beat on.
Yeah, that kid could get beat. He's a foreigner.
Foreign, Jesus.
Yeah, no, I totally would be the Joey in this jellyfish storyline. I'm just being honest there.
Couldn't do it.
No, but he did end up doing it. No, or he just
no. It was Chandler who did
Chandler
it.
ended up being
right, yeah.
which is okay because he ended up marrying her later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Piano, it becomes yours.
Yep, exactly. It's like the step up from the lick it. It's mine. You can't get that. It's mine. I marked it. It's mine. I mean, well, he didn't helicopter dick it first, I guess, but you know.
In all reality, if somebody's peeing on something, you're probably not gonna lick it.
Yeah, and in fairness, right? If you want my car, go pee on it, and I probably won't. I can wash my car.
I remember some people would do that whole thing where they try to spit on the food. Like, oh, it's mine now. I'd be like, oh, fuck you, bro. It's mine still. Like, go fuck yourself.
I'm gonna go throw this in the garbage
just to prove a point. Yeah, exactly.
It's not yours. I'm not gonna eat it, but it's gonna be street rats now because it's not gonna be yours. That's for
street rat.
That's it. Straight up.
Street rat. I don't
buy that.
Aladdin can give it to those little fucking whiny kids.
Straight up.
Oh, fuck. All right, it's going south fast, man.
It's going south really fast. So,
going south fast.
Anyways, but yes, make sure to like us on all the platforms. Share us with your friends. Share us on social media. It's very handy if you just even go to the Raw and Order WBU Facebook page and click share with your friends and post it on your wall so other people can see it. Great way to support us there. But the spread shop by yourself, get yourself a Sasha Bear shirt before we get a cease and desist on them because it might.
Surprised it hasn't happened yet. Yeah,
it
probably only hasn't because we probably just haven't been found yet. That's all. But I will be wearing one.
We don't have to worry about it from WWE. The place we're
most
worried
likely
about it from is
Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Most likely. I'll be wearing one at the Zello Pro event.
Oh, really?
So
yep.
That shit's done. That shit has happened.
Yes.
Just like this, AEWs.
Yep.
You didn't
do it, so I did it.
Copyright the font. Now we got it.
Yep. It's ours now. I'm gonna have one on my hat because I'm gonna wear a Piss Ant Podcast hat.
And as you can see, I don't usually wear hats.
And Sasha Bear. And Sasha Bear, and then I'm gonna have him sign a green shirt. But not
Sharpie,
that color green.
Come after us for that, Sharpie.
Yeah, come after us. It looks like a Sharpie, but it doesn't say Sharpie on it. So Okay, before we do this for 2 hours, let's go ahead and stop. Thank you all for listening. We will see you soon.
Copyright.